Okay, welcome back. Thanks for joining me on this lovely evening. This evening I'm going to talk about at-one-ment, atonement. At-one-ment is the word that Richard Rohr kind of breaks it up with. At-one-ment with the dashes. He says actually how much damage has been caused by how we've ignored those important dashes. And actually at-one-ment, atonement, probably is more similar to the word that Tyndale created when he created his Bible than maybe our word atonement does. That at-one-ment helps us to understand something. First, I want to start with a story. And the story is of a few years ago, as part of my Baptist college time, we had a trip with Baptist Missionary Society, BMS as it's called, and we went up to Cusco in Peru. It was a really fantastic time. But one of the things we did was we went to Machu Picchu, which is this city in the clouds, in the mountains, and you go up there and you go up in the morning, climb, and then as you climb up, the clouds dissipate and the city sort of reveals itself. It's a really beautiful, magical experience. But one of the places you go to is there's a ledge. It's quite a high up ledge, and it kind of like leads, well, there's a drop down to the green patch below, and the green patch below would have been where everyone from the city would have come and watched, and the ledge would have been where the priest stood, and the priest would have then sacrificed a virgin to appease the wrath of the angry gods. And unfortunately, that appeasement of wrath is the image that sadly we still have when we consider at-one-ment. That somehow this is about the appeasement of this wrathful, angry God. And I think the problem we have most of all with atonement, at-one-ment theories, and they're all theories, is the most popular one amongst Western evangelical circles is this penal substitution model, that Jesus dies, is punished to appease the wrathful, angry Father. And you can see from that description maybe why Tom Wright calls it a paganized soteriology. And that's why I think the at-one-ment really helps, this oneing, this God becoming like us. I think one of the problems, apart from the obvious a soteriology of paganism, is that we have lost a sense that atonement is more than just the death on the cross. It is far more about Jesus becoming one with us, at one with us, and then becoming at one with us in our life and our death, and then we become at one with him in resurrection. And I think the problem with, as I said, with penal substitution theories is that when I discuss this and argue with people who are very firmly penal substitutionary, is they've never been given an alternative solution, an alternative idea, an alternative theory. There's such a fixed level of understanding that it's about this punishment, that the Son has to be punished to appease the wrath of the angry God, the Father. And I think, there's a big dog fight going on. It's not one of mine, that's fine. And I think the problem is because we haven't had this one. And I think, my personal preference, and actually it's interesting reading books on Celtic theology, is that it is the preferred understanding of the Celts, the ancient Celts, is that of the victory of the cross. That the cross is a victory, sometimes known as ransom theory, or Christus Victor. The cross is Jesus's glory, and that Jesus, in the Celtic mythology, Jesus goes as a conquering hero towards death. And I like some of that. I also struggle with some of that, but I think the more for me, it's this at-one-ment, atonement, Jesus becoming at one with us in life, at one with us in suffering, at one with us in order to become at one with us in death, and then through the cross, through that moment of glorification, God becoming king, that the cross becomes his throne, as it were. He defeats sin. And this is where people go, oh, but of course I believe in, we've got, the cross just, ends the power of sin. And yes, it doesn't just end, this is the point. The cross doesn't just wipe clean my sins. The point of the cross is it ends the power behind sin. All sin is wiped clean. And not only the sin, but the powers behind sin, the powers of the kind of spiritual realm that are behind sin. Not just personal sin, but institutional sin, corporate sin. All the sin of the world is taken. And if we just limit it to this penal substitutionary model, then it is all about my sin and my personal stuff. And I think that leaves the world open to being a sinful place, that the powers of sin are not defeated. And of course, the Christus Victor model, the idea is that, and you see it in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, the lion does a deal with the queen, and then the queen is trapped and thinks that what she's doing is killing the lion, but actually what she's doing is she's fallen into the trap that the lion has bestowed for her. And instead what we have is the lion then comes in his glory in resurrection. So at-one-ment, becoming one with us. There's so much to this. I could talk for ages. I mean, to be honest with you, I've read loads on this stuff. I think the problem we have with atonement simply comes down to penal substitutionary atonement, as it were, is that because we've never offered a better solution, that somehow people just think that that is the only understanding. Actually, the reality is it's a very modern, very new understanding, but it actually has a lot more flaws than the problems it solves. Thank you for listening. If you've got any questions, put them on the comments. I'll try to answer them at some point. Thank you. Bye.